through 7. But there will be no gloom for those who were in anguish. In the former time he brought into contempt the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali. But in the latter time he made glorious the way of the sea, the land beyond the Jordan, Galilee of the nations. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who lived in a land of deep darkness, on them light has shined. You have multiplied the nation, you have increased its joy. They rejoice before you as with joy at the harvest, as people exult in dividing plunder. Or the yoke of their burden, and the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressor, you have broken, as on the day of Midian. For all the booths of the trampling warriors, and all the garments rolled in blood shall be burned as fuel for the fire. For a child has been born for us, a son given to us. Authority rests upon his shoulders, and he is named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. His authority shall grow continually, and there shall be endless peace for the throne of David and his kingdom. He will establish and uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time onward and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this. Word of God, word of life.
Thanks be to God. In the name of our Lord, amen. Those of you who know me know that I have a fair number of pet peeves, but one of the things that really irritates me is when there is a movie that is just blatant in its historical inaccuracy. Sometimes things will happen by mistake. How many people remember the movie, not the TV show, which is a little woo off, but Spartacus? Do you guys remember when they came out with Kirk Douglas? Yeah. They really ran into a problem because they didn't have like CGI. Are we having a moment?
Yeah.
Kirk Douglas?
An alto moment.
Oh, okay, an alto moment. But one of the things that they ran into is they didn't have CGI for the big battle scenes that they had. And all of a sudden they realized, oh my word, we're supposed to have like 3,000 Roman soldiers marching up the hill to attack Spartacus and his band at the top of the hill. And they thought, what can we possibly do? So they thought, I know what we'll do. We will turn to UCLA. And what they did is they went to UCLA and they recruited a whole bunch of students to come in, and they dressed all the students up in all this Roman garb, and they had them march up the hill. But the problem was, if you look really closely, when those Roman soldiers are marching up the hill, they forgot to take off their watches. And so we know that the Romans were really developed, but I don't think the Romans were all marching up with watches on their wrists. Now, sometimes those mistakes can happen by omission. But sometimes it's like we just don't care. Probably, if you really want me to get on to like a 3-hour rant, talk to me about Braveheart. Oh my word. There is absolutely nothing in Braveheart that's real. But we don't seem to care, do we? Okay, there was a man by the name of William Wallace, and there was a country by the name of Scotland. That's about where it ends. In fact, there's a wonderful article, if you want to look it up on Google, called The 90 Historical Inaccuracies of Braveheart in the First 3 Minutes of the movie. Now, we laugh about that, and yet we can be kind of guilty of doing the same thing. In our confirmation class, not the one that we have now, but this would be a confirmation class way back, because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but we were talking about Abraham. And one of the kids said, well, Abraham and Moses and Jesus, they all talked together and they shared notes, right? And I looked at him and I went, what? No. Abraham lived 2,000 years before Jesus. What? But they still dress the same. Didn't they change their styles at all in between those times? You see, we kind of get these things into our heads and we don't realize the history, and Americans in particular. I'm sorry, but Americans can be really kind of thick when it comes to understanding history. Biblically, understand what's going on in our story. I think this is one of the beautiful, beautiful things about shifting over and doing this narrative lectionary that we're doing right now. Because when do we usually hear the story that Marilyn just told us? Christmas! And so we automatically think, don't we? Unto us a child is born. Unto us a son is given. And just like the confirmation kids, we know who they're talking about, don't they? Don't we? Oh, they must be talking about Jesus. Wrong. No. Now, people looked back 500 years before. 500 years ago. 500 years between the time when Isaiah was written and Jesus. What happened 500 years ago? Anybody remember? If you were there? 500 years is a long time. And yet what do? We conflate those things and we kind of mush them together. But there's a lot to be learned by kind of remembering. Why? First of all, Isaiah. Isaiah was a prophet, and if you look into the Bible, if you look at a Bible that's well translated, it will actually be written in a poetic form, not a narrative. And it's very likely, strangely enough, that the prophets sang. Wow. Because we kind of think of them as grumpy old men, right? Who are just kind of standing on the top of the temple steps yelling at people for all of the things that they're doing wrong. But what would it be like to know that the prophets sang? So do we still hear prophets singing today? I think we might very well. Those people that kind of push us inside ourselves. But getting beyond that, we've talked already about all of the different threats that Israel has been under, that Judah have been under. But the one that they're talking about during this reading is an internal one. Yes, they had problems with the Egyptians, they had problems with the Assyrians, they'll have problems with the Babylonians, but this one is a problem from within. The king is really old. And for them to have any kind of sense of continuity, the king needs to have a child. So that the throne, because the king has two brothers. And if you think that the Old Testament and Game of Thrones don't have anything to, they are a lot alike. The king has two brothers who are just waiting for him to die. They might even be kind of nudging him along just a little bit. And he has no kids, and so one of those brothers is going to take over. And they're fighting between themselves as to who's going to take over. And the kingdom, all of the people are in fear. Because they know that if those two brothers take over, it's going to be civil war, and it's going to be a mess, and a lot of people are going to get hurt, and a lot of people are going to die. Until finally, miracle of miracles, the old king, who in their system was probably 40, that was pretty old back then, finally, he has a child, and he has a son, Josiah, and the kingdom breathes a sigh of relief. Those who dwelt in the land of deep darkness, because that's what it felt like, on them light has shined. The government shall rest upon his shoulders, this baby, and he will be called Prince of Peace. everlasting God. That's what was going on for these people. And they needed a sign. They needed a sign that everything was going to be okay. Now, I may rail against the historical inaccuracies of Braveheart. I may rail against the fact that the confirmation kids think that Abraham and Jesus were best friends. But what I will not rail about is the fact that even though 2,000 years or 4,000 years go by, there are still some things we have in common. In some ways, people haven't changed all that much. Threats come at us from the outside. And we know what those threats feel like. The fear that those threats build are often fed for reasons beyond sometimes our own understanding, or they're fed to feed other people's agendas. We fear those things coming from the outside. We fear immigrants. We fear economic threats. We always seem to fear the Russians. I mean, if you ever need a good villain, just throw in a Russian. And in some ways, maybe it's the accent. Have you ever thought about, this is going to be a tangent, but it's the Russian accent that makes them so scary. Hello, my name is Olga. Right? But always seem to be afraid of those things that we can't understand. But also fear and anxiety that comes to us from the inside. Things within our own lives, things within our country feel like they're unsettled. Like things are just plain weird. I was telling somebody, I think I wrote it on Facebook a 3 weeks ago, where I said that whenever I turn on the news, that somehow it feels to me like I'm suddenly in a movie, like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. It's just like, what is really going on? And who is writing this script? And in the midst of those fears, the one thing that Christians have been told over and over and over again, and yet we forget. Sometimes we think that we're supposed to be the people of the truth, right? We are people who have the truth. We are people who know the truth. And we are the people who are going to shove the truth down your throat. But from the earliest time, Christians were not the people of the truth. But they were the people of the light. The people of warmth. For the first 300 years of Christianity, we did not convert the rest of Europe because we had the truth. Our gods are true and yours are wrong. People started catching on to Christianity because Christians cared for not just one another, but they cared for other people too. And that love and that warmth was really odd, really unusual. 2,000 years may have gone by. But maybe those of us who are living in a land of darkness, of anguish, of anxiety and fear, need to start remembering what we were called to be in the first place. A people of light and a people of warmth. It's really easy. You don't have to have a bachelor's degree, a master's degree, or a doctorate in theology. You just have to know that it's really easy sometimes to be right. It's really easy sometimes to point out all of the thoughts, the faults, the wrong thinking that happens in other people. Always in other people. But maybe what we need right now, more than ever, is to be a people who once again have the light and the warmth of hope building in each one of us, that we can be those people who, like the song that we're going to be singing just a little bit later, This Little Light of Mine. It's a kid's song, but it's not a kid's song. So as you head out into your worlds this week, remember, those who dwelt in a land of deep darkness. On them a light has shone. That's your job. Pure and simple. Hold the door open. Say hi. Smile. Help somebody that's in trouble. Knock on the door of a friend and say, just thinking about you. All of those simple little ways that you can shine. Can we do that?
Yes.
Thank you. Waiting, I was going to sit here and wait until finally somebody said, yes. Because Christianity is not tough. Risky,